Okay, good morning, everybody. It's our last Zoom session. I'm not planning a Zoom session for tomorrow because, quite frankly, I can't think of a good reason to do one. But today there is a good reason to do one, and that is to wrap things up and do a test review so I can make it worth your while. And like I said, if I'm talking about it, it's on the test. So good morning, Saki and Kirsten and Paige and Mallory and Zach and Brendan and Trey. If you got questions, you can unmute yourself and ask. You can put it in the chat. If you put it in the chat, I may not see it right away, so may get to it a little bit later. But what I'm going to do here is first, I'm going to let's see here. I'm going to bring in, like I said, I'm at home today, but I'm going to probably go into school sometime today. I'm going to bring in first. I'm going to talk briefly about what's up here on our site. Okay, so I put this information here about the test. I'm calling it the last test or final test. I guess final test I called it. It's not a full blown final exam, but it is important. It's still 100 points, and I'm going to go into what you need to know and do it. And I'm also going to review here in just a moment. So the questions come from the intro terms too, and the internet notes. Now, when you guys did the internet notes, I gave you the question, so everyone did their own research and looked things up. But I'm gonna go into how I should. Good morning, Persephone. I'm gonna go into what I did here to make your life a lot easier and to make it consistent. Because if everyone's looking up their own definitions of internet, I'm going to have 50 different explanations of the internet. So for the test, I want everybody to have the same. I mean, I want you to at least all know what I wrote the test from. Okay, so I provide you with a set of my notes that I use to write the test. So we'll get to that in just a moment. Okay, so I pretty much just talked about what with these tests. You always put down it has to be the best answer. So what does it mean by that? Let's say that you read the first answer and it is correct. And you think, wow, that's correct. I'll just stop there. But maybe the next one's correct and the next one's correct. And then the last one says all the above. You see where I'm going with that? So make sure you read it all. And if the best answer is all the above because A, B, and C are all correct, then that would be the answer I'm looking for. If it turns out that only A was correct, then of course you'd be A or whatever. So that's what's going on here. So make sure you read it all. And it's all consistent with the notes, which I'll get to in just a moment here. Back to the assignments, because now we're recording. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear. Officially, they're all due Friday night, midnight, which is tomorrow night, midnight. But off the record, I'm going to be working on preparing for my next semester on Saturday. That's my plan. So if I do any grading for the computer lit classes on Saturday, I'm not going to be, if something's not in like the test and that, I probably won't get to that at all till Sunday. So if you do need that extra day to get some things into me, just do it. Now, for the vast majority of you, that's it. There'll be plenty. There'll be no problem whatsoever, and you'll be done. Good luck. And new semester starts Monday, and we'll all be moving on. There might be some people who are either here live or watching the recording on this that are struggling just to pass. Maybe you're at 55%, maybe you're 50%. So for those people, two things. Number one, get in everything you can possibly get in by Friday at midnight. Saturday, keep getting stuff in. And if you're not sure if you're going to pass or you're struggling or some extenuating circumstances come up in your life, by all means, get in touch with me. Don't just do nothing. Because if you're in touch with me, I have a few options. I could give you an incomplete, and then you have some extended time to finish up the class. And again, this is targeting people who are not passing, which is maybe not anybody that's here live right now. So like I said, if you're struggling, be in touch with me. And then everyone else just get everything in. Like I said, officially tomorrow night, midnight, but if it comes in Saturday, no problem. I'm not going to get to the grading on this till Sunday. Okay. Then I'll be grading a lot on Sunday, and I don't know if I'll get it all done Sunday. If I don't know, I'll be grading into Monday and that too. And then we'll be a new semester. So for the test itself, here's what you do. You go to, I already talked about these assignments for the week, so I'm done talking about assignments. You go to the test, and what's here? Okay. The link to the test is in a couple places. It's right there or there. Either one will be the link to the test. Okay. Now, what is this here, Mr. Rio? This is your original terms. Remember these from way back? Well, some of them are on this test. So I rather than have you dig around and say, now, where did I put my notes and my, Google Slides or whatever it was? This is there. Just there it is right here. You don't have to go anywhere. There it is right there. Okay. So you can go through those and look through it and use that as a source. So there's one of your sources right there. Okay. Then remember I said when we did the internet questions, what I did the opposite. Instead of giving you all the answers and have you make a Google Slides or something, I thought, you know what, we're doing the web. I want you guys looking this up yourself. So I just gave you the questions. Okay. And I didn't give you exact same thing what I'm sharing you here with you because this has some search tips and things on it too. But here's what I'm giving you right now. So this is use this because when you did your own, like I said, 50 students looked up what internet is and they got 50 different explanations. They all may be correct, but I could write test questions only from like one set of notes. I wrote them from this set of notes. Okay. Is that pretty clear? So there it is right there. You can just go through here. What is the internet background? How the internet works? What is the World Wide Web and how does it work? And these are my notes. This is what the test is written from. So when you're taking the test, there it is. I just gave you the two sources where everything, I say everything. There's one or two small examples, but they're examples that if you've been in the class, you should know. One of them is a question about something about Excel. Super, super, super easy. If you've been here and you paid any attention whatsoever and did your Excel assignments, cakewalk, give me, so so you can go through this here. These are my notes. Now this is slightly different than the questions you had. It's got this here might have some little search tips in it and stuff that I didn't have you look up. So so there you go. You got your two sources of information right there. That's going to cover almost everything on the test. Now, what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to share it right here right now, but I'll leave this here up for now. I'm going to open up the test in the screen that you can't see, and I'm going to start talking about it. Okay, so if I'm talking about it, it's on the test. So this is review. Okay, first of all, just to review, because like I said, this could come from the earlier terms which I shared with you or the more current ones. This is, and you've been in this class, I've talked about these things many a time. First of all, everyone should know what an operating system is. Okay. Some examples would be Windows. It's an operating system. It's a software that runs the computer, and you should know that. Mac, you might say, what's the name of the Mac operating system? Well, at the most generic level, general level, they refer to as Mac OS. But just like with Windows, there's different versions of it. So if you want to get more technical, the current range of versions are called OS 10, Mac OS 10. And then when Apple releases updates, they have little code names for them. So the current one that's out is called Big Sur. They're naming it after locations in California. So they got Mac OS 10 Big Sur. Then for the iPhone or the iPad, actually, no, let me back up. Apple changed that. For the iPhone, it's called iOS. So that's I and then OS for operating system. They used to use the same iOS on the iPad, but now they broke it out and they kind of configured it because the iPad is a different device than the phone. So they wanted to make it a little more unique and a little more customized for the iPad. So now it's called, I think it's called iPad OS. And then for Android, those of you on Android phones or devices, Android is an operating system. A lesser known operating system, but some computer people in that are into is called Linux. It's an open source system. So those are the main operating systems. Okay, now this is something that's you'll see in the notes from mine about the internet, but there's some trends going on in the internet. And one of those trends is things are becoming more and more wireless. I think everybody probably knows that. We're moving more and more to wireless, more wireless stuff. I remember way back in the day when if you had internet, it was plugged in with a wire somehow. Okay. Then they started coming out with the Wi-Fi, and then maybe a few people I knew had Wi-Fi. And then a couple years later, some more people I knew had Wi-Fi. And now we're to the point where not everybody I know has Wi-Fi, but a lot of people I know have Wi-Fi. And you have Wi-Fi in schools and businesses and coffee shops and McDonald's and all over the place. Another big trend, this is no surprise, probably something you knew before you ever took this class, is internet keeps getting faster. 10 years ago, we didn't really do much video on the internet. And the video we did do was poor quality. It was usually there wasn't even full screen, no HD or anything like that. YouTube, when it was first getting started, was much more primitive. A lot of the videos were short, like a minute or two or three. And now in the last decade, videos just exploded like crazy, so much so on the internet that it's replacing cable television. More and more people are getting their content through other types of internet-based programming, whether it be Netflix or even television over the internet or whatever it may be. So the internet's getting faster. It's already said more wireless. And the other big trend is more and more mobile. It used to be mainly for desktop or laptop computers, and now it's more and more about the smartphones and tablets, and then if it is on a computer, it's more laptops and things like that. So it's becoming more and more mobile. So more wireless, faster, more mobile. All those things are a big part of the future of the internet. I think you guys just a little bit review from before. We talked about software and hardware earlier on in the semester, and the software is the actual electronic software that goes on your computer, like Microsoft Word or the operating system or whatever it may be, a browser. The physical parts of your computer, the screen, the keyboard, the CPU, the storage, the mouse, that's all referred to as hardware. I think everybody remembers that. That's pretty easy to know. When you're working in various windows, there's one window that is the one you can only be in one window at a time. That's active. Hint, active window. So if you got 3-4 windows open, you can click between them and work in different ones, and whichever one you're working in is the active window. USB. There's different types of USB out there. Way back when there was a USB 1, but that's been gone so long, I didn't really talk about it. USB 2 is still lingering on older machines. You might have some around or other devices where you use USB 2. USB 3 is the newer version of that type of USB. They look the same. If you buy a computer with USB 3, it'll also support USB 2 stuff. And they have the same type of connectors. That's the one you're most commonly aware of. A lot of newer things, newer computers, and some devices, phones and things. I think my new iPad arriving today and my Mac I'm using right now at home use USB-C. And USB-C actually has a different type of connector. And USB-C is not as simple as just a faster USB 3, like the 3 to 4. It's different. It's more like think of it like a pipe. And in that pipe, you can put all kind of different things through it. You can put power through it. You can put different types of connectors through it. So it's a very unique type of multi-purpose use USB. So you're going to be hearing more and more about USB-C. Having said that, I just been reading that there is a USB 4 coming out. Now, what's the difference? The USB 4 looks just like the traditional USB that you're all familiar with, except it's going to be even much, much faster than USB 3. But it's not the same thing as USB-C. USB-C even has a different connector. USB 4 probably will have the same type of connector as USB 3. That'd be my guess. So it is a little complicated. There is no USB A, B, or D, or E, or anything like that. So it'd be USB 2, 3, and C would be the ones that would be in use at the moment. And probably you'll be hearing about USB 4 coming out soon. Now, here's a little background on the internet. The internet was started by the U.S. government, specifically the U.S. military, in the 1960s. And the reason they did it had nothing to do with what it became. I mean, no one in the 1960s was thinking about what we do today. All they wanted to do was take all these military computers around the country. And at that time, they were concerned if there was a nuclear war. Let's say the computers connect through a network that goes through Chicago. So you got computers on the East Coast, computers on the West Coast, and you got cities in between like Chicago. Well, the idea was, what if a nuclear bomb hit Chicago and that took out the whole network of all the government computers or the military computers? So they wanted to network it in such a way so if one part of the network went down, like say Chicago, then all the traffic of the remaining computers can reroute through other ways so they could still communicate. And these were in the days when computers were mainly like the size of a room. Okay. And it was a lot harder to network them. I won't go into that whole story. There's documentaries about all that. So that was the main objective. That was it. Networking military computers. But then once they did it, they were learning about networking and how computers work and how to get them to talk to each other. So it didn't take long. It wasn't just the military, it was the government. And then they got universities involved and businesses, and then friendly countries like England or Canada or Japan. And then it eventually, that went on for the 70s and the 80s, where people like you and me would not even know about this hardly, because it wasn't open to the public. Regular people didn't have it. Then around the 1980s, people started getting computers at home, desktop computers. And they weren't on the internet per se, but they were starting to go on services. There were these services you could sign up for. And like AOL at first was just a service, America Online. There's one called CompuServe. And then around the very late 80s, beginning of the 90s, I won't go into the whole story, but the World Wide Web was created by scientists who were on the internet. And they did it just to make the internet better and nicer to work with. Before that, it was not very nice to work with. So they invented the web around 1990. In the early 90s, several things came about. The web came out, the US government and other governments around the world opened up the internet to everybody. And legally, they had to pass laws to say everybody can now go on the internet. And then by that point, people were getting computers in large numbers, and networking was connecting, and you can get a modem. We used to go through telephone lines before they had other types of options, and the internet took off. So that's the background of the internet and the web. The web is not the internet, but the web is on the internet, and almost pretty much 99.9% of what you do on the internet, if not 100%, is done on the web. Though you could technically do things on the internet without using the web. I don't, there's not really a point to do that nowadays. Now, having said all that, the US government still needed an internet that would be really fast, really secure, and can be used for research and the traditional things the old internet, or the internet we use, was used for. So they created something called Internet 2. Okay, so Internet 2 kind of replaced the role of the original internet, where it's mainly just for the military and the government and researchers, and they don't have to worry about everybody else on it. And I've never been on Internet 2, so I don't know exactly what it looks like. It's definitely not what we're used to. There's no Facebook or Google or any of that stuff. So Internet 2 was created, kind of replaced the original purpose of the internet. So it's out there. If you work in universities or government or military or something, you might work on it someday. And I don't know a lot about it, but I just wanted you aware that it exists. And then I also want you aware that the web is on the internet, but the web is not the internet. Okay, the web is about web servers, web browsers, and websites. So that's all built on the internet. Okay. Search engines. The biggest one, of course, is Google. I think everybody's aware of that. Yahoo is still fairly big. Yahoo used to be the king many, many, many years ago, and then they got taken over by Google. Microsoft has one called Bing you may have been on. And believe it or not, there's one I've only been out once or twice, but it gets pretty good reviews for certain types of searches. That sounds kind of weird, but it's called DuckDuckGo. Okay, so DuckDuckGo is out there if you want to check it out. There's Google, there's Yahoo, there's Bing. Now, having said that, there's probably a whole lot of other search engines out there. And the more you get into search, a lot of the articles I read and videos I've watched, different search engines might be good for different types of things. And there's specialty search engines, and even Google themselves have, subparts within Google. They got, like, I think Google for Kids or something, if I remember right. They also got one, I forget the name of it, but it's all like for doing scholarly research. So if you're in college or university and you have to do research for like scholarly type articles and things, they got like a section in Google for that. But Google's a big one. Yahoo, Bing, DuckDuckGo is a big one. I mean, it's a big one and not anywhere near Google, but it's fairly well known. Let's see what else is going on here. Like I said, if I'm talking about it, it's on the test because I'm looking at the test as I do this. Yeah, the web is all about hypertext links. You guys know when you click on a hypertext link. Now, when you're in a website, there's two types of links. There's links that just go to other pages on the same site, okay? And there's links that go to other sites. So you're in one site, There's a link takes you to another site, or you might be even reading an article on a site and it takes links to other sites. Now, the guy who started the web, hint, hint, is a British computer scientist named Tim Berners-Lee. And Tim Berners-Lee had this idea for a long time. And then when he was using the internet as part of his, he worked in Switzerland. In Switzerland, they have something called CERN, CERN. And CERN is the European Nuclear Research Agency. So scientists from all around Europe are sent there by their countries to work. So they got computer scientists, they got nuclear scientists, they got mechanical engineers and physicists and all kind of people they're working. Brilliant people. So these are kind of people who were on the internet before regular people like you and me were there. So just on their own, this was not their job. Nobody told them to do this, but they were using the internet. And Tim Berners-Lee was the main one who did it, but he obviously worked with some other people and got input and stuff. And that's when they developed the web. So the idea was that you can say you're reading an article, and in the middle of the article, it makes reference to something. You can make a link right there. It's called a hyperlink. And you can click on it, take you to more information about it. And he said that's how people's brains work. You know, you're studying, you're reading, you see something, you want to know more about it. And he just put it, that's part of his idea of the web. So the web came about because of Tim Berners-Lee. He was British. And,
Mr. Rio?
and yeah.
What was his name again?
Tim Berners, Berners. Then it's like a hyphen, Lee, Lee. It's in my notes, the notes I shared with you guys about the internet and the web. Under the section on the web, I believe it's in there. Okay. So if it's in there if you want to look it up. You can also look him up by name. But yeah, Berners-Lee is like a hyphenated name. Berners hyphen Lee. So it's a really interesting story on the development of the web, because these guys had no idea that what they were developing was going to explode like no tomorrow and play a huge role in what we have today. So that's what the web is about: hyperlinks, web servers, web pages, web browsers. Okay, and it's on the internet. Okay. And then on the web, they use things like HTML and CSS. So if you ever take my web design class, we actually make websites in the code, HTML, CSS, which is not to be confused with other things out there like operating systems and stuff like that. The internet is basically all it is. You might say, what literally is the internet, Mr. Rio? It's basically just a network of networks. So let's start at our local level. We'll start with Harper Creek High School. Harper Creek High School has a network. Okay. We have a tech director that runs our network. So we have all these computers. Let's say in the high school, there's all the student computers now. So when they're at school, they're on the network. And then we have all the regular computers on the network. So we may have on any given day, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 800 computers or more on the network. That's just the high school. And then you have the Harper Creek Community Schools has a network that connects all the buildings. So that might be thousands of computers. And that's just Harper Creek. We haven't even left Harper Creek yet. Then we connect to what's called the Intermediate School District. And they're located in Marshall near I-94. And all the area schools in Calhoun County connect there. So there's like another connection to networks. Then in Michigan, we have something called Merit, which is a network for all the schools and colleges and universities. So that connects at the intermediate school district. So we're connected to networks again. And then somewhere in there, they connect to massive hubs they have in places like Detroit and Chicago, where all these networks and your home networks and your Comcast and everything else out there all connect together. And then, of course, then you got connections to other countries, all the different cables and other ways that they connect. So the whole world is connected. It's networks and networks and networks and networks. Now, there's no one organization that owns or no one person or company or government owns the internet or the web. But the closest thing we have is called the W3C, World Wide Web Consortium. And it's in the notes that I shared with you. And the World Wide Web Consortium meets and recommends guidelines and deals with problems, and all the different network administrators around the world and countries usually follow their recommendations. And the reason is simple. If you're running, say, the internet for Lithuania, Why would you care what the W3C says? Well, you probably want your part of the network to work with everybody else in the world. You want an email sent from the United States to Lithuania to arrive at that person's computer in Lithuania. You want a website in the United States to work in Lithuania. So you would want to follow the guidelines. And I won't go into all the story of it. I cover that more in my web design class. But that's basically what they do. Um, Excel. This is, what can you do in Excel? What did we do in Excel? We added numbers and cells. Now you can do all kind of mathematical stuff. You can do adding, subtracting, multiplication, division. We merged and centered text. If you remember, when we wanted to have headings, we would write in some text and select a bunch of cells and merge them and center the text. We made charts. People use Excel to make charts. So all those things we do in Excel. Hint, hint. Now, you may have forgot this one, but everybody uses the internet or tech at our school, and many businesses and organizations, myself included, have to sign something called an acceptable use policy. And it's just basically like, we can't monitor everything you do. We can't get filters to stop every bad thing we'd want you to avoid, but we have guidelines, and most of it's common sense, like don't do really awful things or bad things or illegal things. So that's just policies that they have in schools and businesses and wherever, people have to sign to use the, it's not just the internet. It started out as internet, now it could include other technologies too. Um, Short range communications between phones and computers and electronic devices, often used for headphones, keyboards, mice, and speakers. The key word there, short range, and the big hints are things like headphones, keyboards, mice, and speakers. That, of course, everybody should know is Bluetooth. Okay, not Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is, again, like internet on different computers and devices. Bluetooth is short range, less than, like, say 30 feet or so. And it's for things like headphones and mice and keyboards and stuff like that. Going way back, JPEG comes from the acronym of the organization that came out with that graphic standard, the Joint Photographers Expert Group, and that's in the original notes. Now, when they have fake emails or fake text messages or things like that trying to get you to share information like your social security number or your credit card number, and then you get these emails and texts and that trying to get you to fall for it. Those are called phishing schemes. And phishing is spelled with a PH, and it's like phishing, So that's from the original notes, I believe. No, it's from the notes I shared with you about the internet and the web. Sorry about that. If you go through that, you'll see it. If you go to a website, the most common questions people are likely to have for whoever's website it is are often labeled as a FAQ, frequently asked questions, FAQ. So I think you guys are familiar with that. Web 2.0. The original web was kind of like picking up a magazine or a newspaper. You just read it, looked at it. That was it. Then they started coming out with interactive and social web, where you interact and you share and you post and you do all kinds of things. And that's been now for over 10 years. And they refer to that as Web 2.0. So they didn't actually come out with a new web. They just, the way the web it works and the way people set up sites and in social media and all that. So like Twitters and Facebooks and Instagrams and all that are all Web 2.0. Everyone should know the main brains of a computer is a CPU, the central processing unit. That's from our original notes. The peripheral for controlling and pointing at things on the computer is a mouse. I think everybody knows that. I talked about the W3C. That's the World Wide Web Consortium. It's in the internet notes I shared with you. To protect your computer or your network, if you run a network, from hackers and malware and all that, it's called a firewall, and that's in the internet notes. And firewalls could be software, or it could be a device that you buy and plug into your network that helps do that. There's ways that can help control and monitor things and stuff. The web was invented by Tim Berners-Lee, which is in the notes I put in there. The current version of Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi 6. If you want to get real technical, it's probably like 6.11c or something, but just to know in the grand scheme of things, it's 6. There was a Wi-Fi 5, and then had a bunch of standards. Now we're into 6 standards. So every time they upgrade and make it better, it goes faster. But there are some things on the horizon. They're supposed to be way better and way faster and everything that are not called Wi-Fi. So there may come a day that we no longer use Wi-Fi. Anything you're buying or selling on the web is known as e-commerce or online shopping. And of course, because the your first name, last name, whatever are set up like questions, they could pop up anywhere on the test. And that is it. I just literally covered basically everything on the test. And I did it, and it's 10 o'clock, and I'm wrapping that up right now. So if you got a question, feel free to unmute or hang here for a minute or two or whatever, or put it in the chat. Or you can contact me anytime, email or text. But basically, good luck on your test and get any of your other assignments in. Officially due Friday at midnight, but if you get turned in Saturday, that should not be a problem. If you're into some situation where there's something going on, or you're trying to even pass, if you're struggling, be in touch with me because we have some options. Okay. Don't just give up or don't talk to me. Okay. But people who come to the Zoom usually aren't those people. So, but the vast majority of you are doing just fine. And the other thing is, when I grade, just to let you know, some of you are coming to the Zoom saying, do we get points for going to Zoom? Not directly, but I kind of remember who's been at Zooms. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to punish anyone who hasn't been. There's might be valid reasons some people aren't here. That's why it's not required. But when it comes time I go to do your final grade, I got some leeway. So I may look at it, and let's say you're getting 88% or 89%. I could give you a B plus. That's normally what it would be. But I might look and say, they come to my Zooms and they've done this and they've been pretty good about stuff and whatever. They do nice quality work. And may do one of two things. I may either just go ahead and give them the next grade up, like an A minus, or I may just shoot them a little text saying like, can you do like one more assignment here real quick? You're missing this one thing or something they may have forgotten about. So yeah, so there are benefits to being in touch and participating. So that's it. It's been great having all of you in my classes this semester. I look forward to see some of you in my other classes, sociology, digital video, web design, maybe in the future. And good luck on everything. We'll have a new semester, new beginning on Monday. And, I think we're all ready to move on to something different. So have a great day. Take care. If you got a question or something, you can hang here for a minute. Yep. Take care. Good luck, everybody. Take care of Persephone and Saki and Isidro and Trey and Brendan and Zachariah and let's see, Paige, Kirsten. Take care, everybody. See ya.
Bye. See you soon.
Yep. Take care, Saki.
Hey, Mr. Rio,
Yeah.
what'd you say about the fishing one was it again? What was
Fishing is, first of all, it's spelled with a PH. So it's just like regular fishing, but spelled with a PH. And it's where they try to trick you by sending you an email. Now, the email might say something like, did your order of whatever for $3,000 from Amazon will be delivered tomorrow. But if you did not order this, click this link. Well, of course, Amazon doesn't normally send you an email that tells you about a imminent order and then put a link that says, if you did not order this, click here. So they do that. People see it. They panic. They're like, oh, no, I didn't order that. So they click the link. It comes up with a fake site that looks like Amazon. And then it may ask you, like, if you did not order this, give us your credit card number or give us your social security number and we will cancel it for you. But in reality, they're trying to steal your information. So they can do that for all kind of things. They have fake banks, they have fake credit cards, whatever they think they can trick you into giving you information. So that's called phishing. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
You too, Mr. Rio. Bye.
Yep. Okay. That's it, everybody. Have a great semester.